right, hey you guys, today we're going to be talking about the Arab-Israeli conflict. And so we need to go through just the background kind of the conflict so that you can understand why there is a lot of conflict and trouble and unrest really in Israel. So remember the other day you should have watched the video that explained all the different vocabulary terms. One of them was a centripetal force. Remember, centripetal with a P is something that's positive, right? Remember writing that down. And so that's going to be something that unites people. So it's going to bring people and countries together, okay? Some examples could be like commitment to a national culture, or a shared belief system, or a common faith. Okay, and so that's going to be a lot like nationalism, right? People are going to be united and have a sense of pride if they can relate these different things to other people. Okay, so in particular, centripetal forces. In this conflict is going to be like Israel. The Israelis are united by their Jewish faith, okay, and their belief that that Israel was truly their homeland and where their people first started thousands and thousands of years ago, okay. And then on the opposite side of that, you have the Palestinians who share their belief of they are Muslim, okay? They are of Arabic background, okay? And so they speak Arabic. They're primarily Islamic. And so you have these Israelis who unite together, and you have these Palestinians that really unite together. So both of these groups feel very strongly towards their sense of nationalism and their uniting together, basically. On the flip side of that, you have centrifugal forces. Remember the F. The F means a fight, right? So this is going to be something that divides people and countries, all right? So this could be examples like different religions, different languages, different ethnicities, and stuff like that. So basically, in our example today, you have the Israelis versus the Palestinians, okay? And so we had just talked about how the Israelis unite together and the Palestinians unite together, and they're both just very different culturally, linguistically, religiously, and so that's why there is a lot of conflict between these two groups of people, because they're living very close quarters, very close together within Israel. Okay, so geopolitics refers to international relationships. So basically, who are we friends with in the world based on geographical factors, okay? So our example here is Saudi Arabia. Why in the world would we be nice to Saudi Arabia? Think about it. Hopefully, you said oil, right? That's why we want to be friends with Saudi Arabia, the United States, right? We want to be friends with Saudi Arabia because they have all of the oil, okay? And so because they have that natural resource, we typically don't want to go to war with them or anything, because they could very easily cut off our supply of oil, and they have the most of it, okay? So that term geopolitics is thinking about relationships based on geographical factors. So when we specifically in our studies for this today, geopolitics is going to relate to the differences in the Israelis and the Palestinians, their belief on who owns the land, okay? Because both groups of people believe that they belong in the country of Israel today because their ancestors were there a long time ago, okay? And so a lot of this has to do with who owns the land based off of their religious beliefs as to who they believe owns the land, okay? And so that geographical factor as far as the land rights, okay, determines the relationship between the Israelis and the Palestinians. All right. So that's how geopolitics is going to play in today. I want you to take a look at this map. Okay. Hopefully it's going to be clear on your PowerPoint that you open up. Okay. But if you are looking at this is a map of Israel. Okay. You can see it here. All right. You have the outlines of Israel, and Israel, you need to know that Israel was created in 1948. So think about your world history. World War II ended in 1945, okay? And so remember the Holocaust that happened in 1940, or the 1940s, right? Everybody thought it was a really big deal, obviously, right, with the Holocaust. And so the world felt like the Jewish population needed a homeland, okay? So the United Nations created the country of Israel in 1948, okay? And they pulled this piece of land here in the Middle East and said, okay, Israelis, or okay, Jewish people, we're going to give you Israel, which was your homeland, that has been considered your homeland for a really long time. It's all throughout their holy text, right? That this was their land, okay? The problem is that while the Jewish people had been out of this area for a really long time, you have the Palestinians who had inhabited this land in the Middle East, okay, because all of these other countries are Islamic, right? They're all Muslim, okay? So you have these Palestinians who had started to inhabit this whole area of what is now Israel, okay? But when the UN came in and said, nope, we're going to make this land for a Jewish state, remember, country of Israel, that's when the conflict started to arise, because there were Palestinians who had lived there for generations, okay? And then you have the UN that's come in and said, well, we're just going to draw this line here of Israel, and this is supposed to be for the Jewish community, okay? So clearly that didn't set very well with the Palestinians who were already there, okay? So over a lot of years, there's been conflict back and forth as far as who owns what piece of land, okay? That was supposed to be a shared state, didn't really come out like that. So instead, what's happened today is that there are two areas that the Palestinians are supposed to be confined to, okay? So the West Bank, which is over here, kind of looks like a butterfly wing to me, and then the Gaza Strip, which is this little bitty strip over by the Mediterranean Sea, okay? Keep in mind, you still have Jerusalem, which is the capital, right there, okay? And so there's a conflict between who's supposed to be where. You have Israelis who are trying to push in on these areas, which obviously makes the Palestinians really mad. And so they've built borders, they've built walls around these areas to keep the Palestinians within their certain region. But then you have the Jewish people who kind of try to move their way in there too. So there's a lot of conflict as far as who's supposed to be where and if that is right or wrong, okay? Okay, so taking a quicker look, or a closer look at Jerusalem in particular, this is the capital of Israel, okay? This is a very small town, or smaller town than you would think a capital would be, but Israel is small itself, okay? But Jerusalem in particular is very small, okay? And it's kind of split into different quarters here, as you can see, and you have this area that is very special to three of the world's large, or like major religions, right? We looked at that in our last unit. So you have the Muslim quarter, you have the Christian quarter, you have the Jewish quarter, and then you have also the Armenian quarter, okay? But for Jews, for Muslims, and for Christians, there are very big, important sites here that mean a lot to these religions, okay? So for the Christians, you have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, I think that's how you say it, but that is supposed to be where Jesus had died and then was resurrected. Okay, so very big, important place for their Christian faith, and a lot of people will make a pilgrimage to this church at some point. So that's a really big thing for Christians. But then you have in the Muslim quarter, you have the Dome of the Rock, okay? And this mosque, you've probably seen a picture of it. This mosque is where Muhammad was supposedly had made his ascension into heaven from this place in particular, and then they made a mosque there for that, okay? And so again, a very big deal for the Muslim faith of for that thing for Muhammad having been ascended there, and so very important for the Muslim faith, okay? And then you have the Wailing Wall, which is the most important place for the Jewish faith, of where people go to pray, and it's the holiest place for the Jewish faith. Okay, so in this very small area, you have 3 very big important places for 3 very different religions. Okay, and so clearly you could see how that might arise or cause some conflict if religions and people start to claim this land and this place as theirs, but then there are other people who think that it's just as important to their religion, okay? So very important place here in Jerusalem, okay, which adds to the conflict even more. All right, so what you're going to do over the next couple of days, or if you want to start it today, you can, but you're going to watch a couple of videos from this National Geographic documentary, okay? So if you click on this blue link here, you'll have to do it from the PowerPoint, not from my video, but click on this link and it's going to take you to the Nat Geo website, where you'll watch 4 8-minute videos, okay? And what you're going to need to do is record your thoughts on this stuff that's down here at the bottom, okay? So I want you to think about the Israeli perspective and the Palestinian perspective, okay? The videos do a really good job of showing you both sides. They talk to Israelis and they talk to Palestinians, and you really get to see both opinions on this conflict. And so it's really cool to see what both sides of this argument think about, okay? So in particular, I want you to take a close look at daily life. So what does it look like to be an Israeli throughout the day? What does it look like to be a Palestinian throughout the day? Okay. And then I want you to listen about what they say about their land rights. How do the Israelis view them being there in Israel? Okay. And then also listen to the Palestinians talk about what they believe they can control over land rights. Okay. And then towards the end, I want you, the narrator does a good job of asking the different people what they think would fix or solve the problems, okay? So I want you to pay close attention to solutions for the future, okay? So I want you to take notes of this. If you are like a color-coded person like I am, and if you want to do, Palestinians in red and Israelis in green, and jot down your notes, or if you are someone who wants to maybe make a chart over the different things you could do, Israelis versus Palestinians, and then you could split up your chart and do daily life, land rights, and solutions, or something like that, okay? And if that's how you want to do it, if you want to make a chart like that, or if you just want to jot down some notes and color code it, whatever makes sense to you, as long as you know what the Israelis think and what the Palestinians think about these different options, okay? This is a new edit to this video. I know I've been talking about how you could watch these videos throughout the week. This video was made a few years ago, but currently, as of 2022, you will watch this during the class period. You'll watch all of these videos and you'll take notes while you're watching the videos, okay? There is a Google slide that is linked on Canvas if you want to type directly into that note slide, or you can make your own notes like I've been explaining in this video already if it just makes sense to you to do it visually, or to type it out on a different document. You can do that as well. But there is also a Google Slide notes template that is linked on Canvas for you to use for this lesson too. At the end of the videos, so after you've taken your notes after watching the 4 videos, at the end, I want you to go back and think about the vocabulary that we talked about from the other day, from our lesson the other day, okay? So from your notes, you need to go back and find an example of these different vocabulary terms in your notes. So if that means you need to annotate or highlight, then you need to do so. Maybe highlighting would be better. If you just highlight, underline, circle, whatever you want to do, but annotate these examples of vocabulary from your notes, okay? So what are examples of a nation from the videos that you watched and from your notes? What is the state that we are talking about? What is the multinational state? Okay, so go back in your notes and highlight those terms or examples of those terms from your notes. And then the next thing that you will add to your Padlet, you're going to add your notes template that you've been working on, but then a separate entry will be a paragraph. You're going to write a paragraph that explains your understanding of this whole conflict, okay? So after watching all of the videos, after taking notes, what is your understanding of this conflict? And you have to use the 7 terms that are listed here, okay? So it shouldn't be too hard. You just need to summarize what the conflict is about, and you're going to use these 7 vocab terms that are listed here that you're going to highlight in your notes. So it should be pretty simple. So there are 2 entries for today on Padlet. One is going to be your notes, and the other entry is going to be a quick paragraph that explains the situation, explains the conflict using these terms.